Welcome food fans, picky eaters, the flavor curious, and everyone in between. Nothing makes good food better than good conversation, and your table is ready. Welcome back to another episode of the Food for Thoughtcast with your hosts, Melissa Reagan and Steven Gonzalez, but you can call them Chef. All right, let's get this episode started.
Hey there, food fans. Welcome back to the Food for Thoughtcast with me, your host, Melissa Reagan, and my co-host with the mostest, Chef Steven Gonzalez. What's up, buddy?
Hola.
Hola. What you doing?
Hanging out with my buddy, Melissa. What are you doing?
Hanging out with your buddy. Hanging out with my buddy, Steven. Silly questions. How was your
I
week?
don't ever know how to respond to that. Like,
I know.
What are you doing?
What you doing? Obviously, we're recording a podcast, you idiot. All right, fine. I'll have to find a new
I'm juggling
then.
plates. That's so rude of me. I'm so rude. How's it going?
Rude. How's your week been, dude?
It's been fun. What about yours?
It's good. It's good. Super busy. Getting ready to open the old restaurant. But today I'm making stir fry, so looking forward to that.
We're gonna be making a pasta salad with chicken.
Yum.
Hooray!
And what else? What else goes in there?
Asparagus. I don't sound very enthusiastic because I want Chinese food.
Napoleon Dynamite right now.
No, I think
asparagus. Gosh.
Well, the pasta salad is going to have of course, your pasta, some black olives. I think a little bit of a balsamic vinegar. We're going to throw in some red onion.
Yes.
And then, of course, we'll put it with a grilled chicken breast, maybe some asparagus. I think the best way to do the asparagus would be to roast it off or grill it and then cool it down with the rest of the salad.
Yeah, and chop it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the only way to eat asparagus after you throw it in the trash, by not eating it. To
be honest, I haven't eaten asparagus in a really long time, but it's so good. It's kind of expensive.
I'm just not in the mood for it right now because I have a craving for Chinese food, and I have to be patient. It's the perks of trying to be healthy, not healthy, healthier, trying to be healthy. Yeah.
I think it's about balance. So I have stir fry. It's the plan. It's riceless because I am out of rice. And even if I had it, I don't want to cook it. But it's going to be, I have some leftover. I made sliders for, what was the last patriotism holiday we had? Memorial Labor Day? Yeah. So I made sliders and I had some meat left over and I didn't feel like eating them as sliders again. So I kind of deconstructed the whole thing, chunked it up and put it in a Ziploc bag to be used later. Kind of maybe for chili or beef vegetable soup, but I think it'll work well for this. So I thought it out. I'm going to chop it up really small, kind of so it's ground meat again. I'm going to get it in a super hot skillet with a little sesame oil. I'm going to deglaze it with rice wine vinegar. And then I've got all variety of frozen, all the things. So basically Aldi has really good prices on produce, but it doesn't last very long. So it's kind of on its last legs, I find.
You won't notice that if you get produce from a certain Texas grocery retailer.
3-letter Texas grocery retailer, which I can't get vegetables from there because I'm in the Carolinas.
That's
bro.
True.
Come at me. But yeah, so I have all sort of diced yellow bell pepper, yellow squash, zucchini, onions, broccoli, carrot, edamame in the freezer.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm just gonna little baby handful of everything, little soy sauce. But I'm feeling different Asian direction this evening, so I think I'm going to like peanut butter, soy sauce, red chili flakes, ginger
and jelly
ish. I like stir fry and jelly, stir fry. So yeah, stir fry ish. Stir fry esque.
That sounds good.
That's the plan. So the reason that we keep saying onions weird is because we're going to talk about onions today.
Who doesn't like onions?
A lot of people, actually.
Right.
A ton of people. But Steve, what was the most amazing thing you ate this week?
I would say, so you know how sometimes you end up having a snack that is just out of this world unintentionally?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was introduced to these rice cakes, salted caramel rice cakes, which are phenomenal. And then I topped it off with a little bit of a chocolate almond butter. Holy cow. It was good.
I had a similar experience this week. So not a ton of amazing entrees. I tried some places around town that I won't be returning to. I guess you have to get it out of the way to find the good ones, but just kind of like woof. Just in short, the menus look like somebody just got out of culinary school and had more money than sense, and the flavors in the dishes didn't make sense. And there was a lot of wordsmithing. You know, there's a 2-part episode early on in this podcast history called Coming to Terms, Part 1 and Part 2, and it explains what menu terms mean.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people take a lot of liberties with saying a thing is one thing and you order it and it's actually another. And it's just kind of creative words. But all that to say, similar experience to you, had a snack that involving some peanut butter. It was really fantastic. So I buy these protein crackers, and they're kind of like Cheez-Its from Quest. And there's 5 grams of protein in a bag of these cheese crackers, and they're extremely cheesy. They taste like the mac and cheese powder from the Kraft box. Wow. There's like super cheddary, cheesy flavored. But I dipped them in peanut butter with sugar-free mini chocolate chips that was stirred into it. So kind of a peanut butter and cheese cracker situation with little chocolate added.
Interesting.
So, similar, but I want to get some of those rice cakes and do what you did because that sounds really good.
Yeah, it was worth it.
I love it. So
totes my goats.
Totes my goats. We're talking about onions, Steven. You love them?
I absolutely love onions. I can eat them with almost every meal.
You have a favorite type of onion?
I would say green onions, but I also like sweet onions. But I also love leeks, but I also love red onions.
Hey.
Why, yes, Sam, I am. I do love onions and ham.
I do love the onions and ham. I also love onions. I almost have them with every single thing I cook at home, depending on what it is. But yeah, onions. Onions go all the way back to the Bronze Age. Pliny the Elder talked about onions when he wrote
from
Pompeii.
1973.
1973. That's also a year that applies to onions being old. But yeah, onions are really amazing. They're part of the allium family, and we're going to talk about the types and maybe our favorite uses for them today.
Yeah, I mean, onions can be roasted, grilled, pickled, caramelized, battered, and deep fried, sliced thinly,
burger,
chopped,
sausage,
raw, put them in sandwiches, salads, dips, garnish. I can keep going on if you'd like.
Thank you, Bubba. So very important to know that there are several types of onions used in cooking. You have shallots and pearl onions. And cipollinis, these are the smaller varieties, right? They kind of have their larger counterparts, although, you know, these are not the baby versions of the same thing full size, okay? So shallots are super sweet. They're good for caramelizing, cooking, deep frying, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got your... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I know that they're kind of sweet, but every time I cut into a shallot, I always get like a little bit of that garlic chive kind of scent out of it too. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the sweetness comes through when you cook them, but they are definitely rank when you cook them.
Oh, yeah.
So it is very strong flavor. Pearl onions are used for a lot of things like pickling and caramelizing. They're a sweet white variety. They're good for pickling and eating raw, but I kind of like them the most in a martini, to be honest. So
I too also like to live dangerously.
Cipollinis look like a small baby yellow onion, but again, they are their own thing. They are sweet, mostly used for roasting and pickling.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have kind of the larger, I'll say, counterparts, but yellow onions are good for soups, sauteing, and making things like kebabs. You can eat them raw. They're very sharp. They do have some sweet cousins like the Vidalia, the Maui, and the Walla Walla. Really good for a raw application. It's like eating it on a hamburger or sandwich.
What's the most popular way to use a yellow onion? What dish?
So the yellow onion, I don't know. Is this a setup? Do you have the answer already?
It's a French onion soup.
French onion soup. They make an excellent base for that soup. Steve, have you ever made a 5-onion soup?
No, I haven't. I need to now.
So same concept, except that it's 5 things from the allium family. So it's usually like yellow onion, leek, garlic, shallot, and green onion, kind of all caramelized and stewed down together. Little brandy or sherry, same application, but it's 5-onion.
Yeah.
Kind of like if you ever had like chicken with 40 cloves. It's kind of like that deal. It's in the name, but like a really simple application. And then you have the red varieties. Well, back on the yellow side, you have Spanish onions. These are going to be a little bit, again, they have like a more dark brown skin than regular yellow onions do. And again, they're going to be kind of sharp and tangy, almost spicy. And then in the red onions, you have the Egyptian and the red wing. So the difference between these are the red onion is kind of like that globe shape and it has like the little offshoot, like the sprout at the bottom. The red wing is more flat. It looks like a grown-up cipollini, except that it's red. Of course, it's got the purple and white interior and the bright red skin. Both of these are sweet. A lot of people have really strong opinions when it comes to red onions. There are just some things that where some places, where it's going to make more sense for you to use a red onion than a yellow. I think they look nicer for burgers, to be honest.
Agreed.
But they're really sharp. So you can do things like soak them in ice water or lightly grill them to make them taste better. So they give me heartburn and acid reflux.
And here I was about to say, oh yeah, they're great for pickling, in my opinion.
And then, yeah, I think so too. And they make that kind of like lovely pink vinegar, that lovely pink, brine or pickling solution when you have it left over. I think they make great pickled onions or like escabeche for tacos and salads and things like that. And then you kind of have everything else in the middle is torpedo shaped, like long and skinny. So you've got ramps, which are kind of like the spring baby variety of a green onion. And then you've got your kind of basic green onions. And then loosely related, but not technically an onion, but still in the allium family, is a leek. And the reason I mention it is because, when we talk about fruits and vegetables, Steve, it's like, yes, a tomato is a fruit, but culinarily speaking, we're going to use it as a vegetable.
Oh, right? Yeah, most definitely.
So something like a leek is technically an allium, and I think it even has another different name, but its culinary application treats it like an onion, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Steven, when did you first start cooking with onions?
I would say probably about 18, 19 years ago. Like, yeah, when I first got into restaurants, one of the prep cooks at the time, he would use it in everything. Like, he would use onions and garlic in almost every single thing, and it was always really good. And growing up, I didn't hate onions, but I wasn't a fan of onions, And it wasn't up until then where I really started to appreciate like all the different applications that you could use an onion for, So yeah. What about you?
Do you put onions in your meatloaf, Steve?
I do. You can't not make a meatloaf and not have onions.
I agree. I think it's the same thing, right? As soon as I got old enough to cook, there were onions involved. I remember going through trial and error, trying to figure out like what was going to help me not cry when I cut them. But eventually, then you get fast enough to where it's not an option unless you've got, a 30-pound bag to work your way through, and then just forget it. You're going to cry. It's going to hurt. But I was going to say, like, I think a meatloaf is the only time I'm ever concerned on a personal level. Now at work, there's great care that goes into like everything being the perfect size.
Yeah.
Meatloaf is one of those things where I'm like, if the onions are too big, I'm like, meh. Because sometimes it doesn't cook through all the way, and it's a different texture, and like I don't like that.
I could see that.
You know? So I like to almost put them in the food processor for meatloaf. I like to be like really, really soft.
I like to get a good,
or really small rather.
I like to get a good saute on them before I throw them into my meatloaf.
Yeah, I just don't want like that raw onion cooked meat situation happening. It's strange to me.
I could see that.
So
totally.
I like to pickle. I think I've pickled almost all the varieties.
Mm-hmm.
I really like to ferment them too. I like to lacto ferment them, which is where you've got 4 parts water to 1 part salt to cover, and you let them sit out room temperature with maybe like a paper towel or a coffee filter on top, so that air can get in there and help the fermentation process. But they get like a lovely, tangy, almost sauerkraut or kimchi quality to them.
Oh,
wow. So that's kind of one of my favorite kind of low rent ways to do it, or lower cost and less time. But do you put any sugar? Like, if you're pickling red onions, do you put any sugar in that solution?
Typically, I don't. But I have done it a handful of times. But even then, it's just a small amount,
Mm-hmm.
Just because.
Is it like? Good.
I was gonna say, just because I don't want that to overpower like the flavor of the onion,
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Do you put anything else in there? Like, let's say you're just making pickled red onions, like a jar of them.
If I do, it's usually the red wine vinegar, maybe a tad bit of sugar. Like if I remember to do that, salt. I always love to throw in like the white peppercorns and a little bit of garlic powder, stuff like that.
Yeah, I always think about, if I think about things like this, I always think about your cookbook where you had like a touch of vanilla with your mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I like to do in a pickled red onion jar is put a half a cinnamon stick. It gives it a really interesting, like, it's just an interesting spin on it. It's not overpowering or anything, but it's like that little, like, what is that? In the background.
I'll try that.
I put some black peppercorns. I like to use white vinegar for red onions because it's gonna bleed anyway. It's gonna make it totally like pink. But for something like shallots, I like to use red wine vinegar as well. Maybe some cloves, white peppercorns, and like whole garlic and jalapeno.
Yeah. If I do shallots, I like to use rice wine vinegar for some reason.
Ooh, that sounds amazing. I wonder would you ever put ginger in there?
I would, yeah. I never thought about doing that, but I would if I have it.
Yeah, just kind of like keep that theme flavor going.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
What about leeks, Steve?
I like leeks, but I spend about 10 minutes washing them out because they always
they're super dirty.
Yeah, they just become muddy. But I love leeks. I think those are delicious. You got it?
Mosquito in here. I didn't get him, but I'm gonna get him. Like, there's a mosquito in here. It is October. I call no fair.
Right. They should all be in hell where they just belong.
They should all know how to read a calendar, at least.
Right.
Leeks are really interesting to me. I think sometimes, depending on how you use them, they're almost not worth the amount of work is required because they don't really stand on their own.
Okay.
One of the things I like to do with leeks is, well, like Steven said, you really have to wash them really well. And so it's just one of those situations. Bless you. My dog just sneezed. So loud, so obnoxious. One of the things about leeks is you have to really wash them really well. And that involves, one of the easiest ways is peeling down to the actual part you're going to use, cutting it the way that you're going to cut it for whatever the recipe application is, and letting it sit in cold water so that the sand or the dirt falls to the bottom, and then just kind of grabbing the leeks off the top. And then I rinse them several more times.
Yeah.
But I like to caramelize them and hit the pan with a little bit of Dijon mustard and a splash of balsamic vinegar, and then use that as a topping for grilled chicken. That's what I like to use leeks for.
That sounds pretty good, though.
So it's kind of lets them be the star. I always find that leeks are like in soup, and then it just looks like, uncharacteristic onion. Like, it never gets to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Whenever I do use leeks, I usually use it for like potato leek soup and things like that. Like that's like the most basic one. That, or if I'm roasting like a whole chicken or something like that, I do like to enjoy the flavor of the leeks versus just like a regular onion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when you say like regular onions, what do you typically think of?
To me, when I say regular onion, I just mean like yellow or white.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find myself using like very little red onion unless, I don't know, this might even be sacrilege, but I always end up putting it in like a Mexican food preparations.
I could see that.
So or I soak it in a lot of ice water and I'll put it in a salad sometimes. Like a spinach salad's just not a spinach salad without like raw red onion,
Yeah.
To me. So
interesting.
Yeah. They make good pickles though.
So
they make excellent pickles.
So let me ask you this. What's the difference between like a chive and a green onion? Besides the size.
That's a fantastic question. Well, they're just two different items.
Right.
Yeah.
They are, but
well, the chives don't. A lot of times, chives get characterized as an herb because it's an easier way to sell them and classify them. But a chive doesn't have any of the root end. It doesn't have any of the white part like green onions do. For starters, it doesn't have multiple layers. Like it is what it is. It's like one piece. To me, chives are garnish or oil.
Yeah.
Green onions, I feel like you can get away with cooking or using raw.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
I think they're weird when they're cooked, to be honest. I like a green onion on top of a baked potato, or a really nice garnish on top of like an Asian dish. But when they're cooked, I think they kind of lose what makes them special.
Yeah. What about a green onion versus a scallion? What's the difference?
They're the same thing.
Oh, thank God. I always like to ask like those questions because I've been asked that.
I feel like we're in a job interview right now.
Right. So, no, I mean, I like to ask that question because I always like to see a lot of people consider everything like the same. Like, and even though like a chive is a lot thinner and, but like a lot of people just kind of associate that all together,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, I think chive and green onion gets used interchangeably. I think more often than not, scallion and shallot gets really confused for some people. So a shallot is like a tiny yellow onion, even though they're not related.
Even though they're more pink.
Yeah, they're like pinkish,
but delicious.
Purple, but delicious.
Yeah, that's all it comes down to.
So delicious, so delicious. I didn't really get introduced to shallots until. Well, that's not true. I think I probably saw like Bobby Flay or Martha Stewart use them, but in culinary school is where really it almost seemed like everything started with a shallot. But I mean, I'm sorry, they're like half the size and twice the price of yellow onions, so I don't buy them a lot unless I need them specifically for something. Like I just don't, because culinarily it's just size. You know what I mean?
Yeah, most definitely.
I don't feel like there's a lot of difference in the flavors.
Yeah.
Between that and a regular onion. So
I tried
the French making everybody feel inferior for no reason.
Right. I tried to just use white onions, sweet onions more than anything else. But it's just because like you just said, price. So I'm cheap. But we can make them taste darn good.
I mean, yeah, you can make if you know what you're doing and you have a plan of attack, you can make anything, no matter the price, tastes good. You can elevate it,
Yeah.
It's kind of like we talked about before, brisket. Like you could make a select brisket taste really incredible.
Yeah. Or what you could do is you could make a brisket, just mince it all up, make like a brisket onion ring. Sorry, I was on Instagram before we were filming.
I want a brisket onion ring.
Yeah. What they did was they chopped up a ton of brisket, threw a bunch of melty cheese in there, and then like put it between like two onion pieces and then battered it. Holy crap, it looked good.
When are you making it, Steven?
That's a good question. Mine would be more of like a pizza onion ring.
Please. Like with sausage and marinara and cheese inside of onion?
You just totally saved it. I was going to just wing it, but you just made it. Yeah. You brought it home. That's a good idea.
Well, if there's anybody that can combine two things that usually don't go together, who's this guy?
That's right.
But yeah. Oh, that sounds so incredible. So onion rings. What do you use when you're making them? What kind of onion?
I like the yellow onions.
Same. It's hard to use. I think a red onion would taste good, but do you know why it's not good to use for an onion ring?
Why is that?
Because the rings aren't concentric inside.
True.
So you don't get like half of the yield. They have like weird shapes in the middle of the onion, and it gets a little sulfury. It gets a little strong on the core of a red onion. Those things they're rank.
Yeah,
they're strong. Very, very pungent. Steve, do you cry when you cut onions?
Sometimes. There was a point where I didn't, but then I realized it's because I used to wear contacts all the time. Now that I don't, I get just a little bit bothered, affected by it.
Verklempt, a little teary-eyed?
A little gloomy, yeah.
A little, I'd like to thank all the little people. Yeah, I've gone through it. You know, the goggles, the matchstick in your mouth, the run in the water. But honestly, what works best for me is just refrigerating your onions. It dials it back. It's a defense mechanism for the onion. So it basically releases its own form of S oxide, which is an aerosol.
Yeah.
And it interacts with your tears and it causes stinging.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, it's like the onion crying out for help, essentially. But I mean, you know, it's interesting is like there's all these wives' tales and all these myths about the things you can do, but one of the things that actually is proven to work is just your onion being cold or refrigerated, because it just dials the strength back of that aerosol. But you might still cry. But that's important, right? Because you can't store onions next to a thing like an apple or a pear. It'll absorb those odors and it'll decay faster because it'll pull the moisture from those items. So.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
The things, the more you know. Now you know.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure this mosquito just bit me on the foot.
Ruh-roh.
Here we are.
So
Ruh-rohs. He's gonna die. He's gonna die so hard.
So whenever you look at onions, do you ever see where they're from?
Yeah, every once in a while.
Where are they normally from?
Well, there's quite a few come from Texas. Some from California. Some from Mexico. Where else?
Well, I was just gonna throw a little shameless plug out there, but like a lot of the times I'll see they're from Mission, Texas, which is where I'm from. So
nice. I love that so much.
Yeah, the first time I saw that, I thought, "Oh, that's awesome." Plug away. Yeah, I had cut off like the Mission, Texas part, and I had like put that in my knife bag because I just thought it was super cool. So,
I love that.
And then like I have an uncle and one of my cousin's husbands. They work for like a produce company, and so like they do a ton of onions, you know. So they just send them out all over the country. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Walk me through your French onion soup, Steve.
What I like to do is I open a can of French onion soup and I heat it up. Just kidding.
Okay.
No, not really. I mean, I'll typically go with like some sweet onions, and then if I just have an extra like white onion or whatever, I'll just combine them. I really don't care. But I just love to just cook them down low and slow until they're just caramelized golden brown. And then typically I'll get, beef stock or beef broth because I don't really make my own stocks anymore because I don't have that kind of time. So I'll just do that. And then, but I also love to add like garlic, a little bit of some thyme, rosemary, things like that. And I like to toast all that off before I throw that in with my onions and all that.
Nice.
And I keep it really simple, like I don't reinvent the wheel on that one as much as I could. I always refrain from doing that, and of course, like with your Gruyere, your crostinis, all that fun stuff too. So comes out nice.
Nice.
It's less is more type of deal. That's the one dish where I'm like, keep it simple.
Yeah, the onion's the star. Like I think both of us probably have some tips and tricks for caramelizing onions faster. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you were like, I needed this yesterday, so
and you add water.
Here's what we're doing. Yeah, you can let the pan burn in one spot, add water, and we'll spread that caramelization. You're not really getting the onion flavor at that point, but you're like faking the color.
Yeah.
You can put a little sprinkle of sugar in them too. That helps, and using butter helps because the dairy solids will caramelize. They'll brown themselves.
You ever throw a sherry or any kind of alcohol?
If it's gonna go with the flavor of what I'm using them for, sometimes I'll throw a little balsamic vinegar in there. That's like a super colored shortcut, like
I like it. Yeah. Sometimes if I'm
or Worcestershire,
I was gonna say I'll throw in a little whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
That's always good too.
I like it. Remind me, do you like blue cheese or no?
I love blue cheese.
So I like, if I'm making crostinis, I'm gonna do caramelized onions and blue cheese with like steak. That'll use the whiskey with the onions because it plays really well with the blue cheese.
That's a good idea.
It's really good. So I actually got that detail. I kind of got that little insight into that. I was working in a Spanish place and we had a guy who was from Sevilla and he was teaching us about this one tapa they have, and it's like Roquefort a la whiskey or Roquefort con whiskey or something like that. Anyway, it's essentially is like the smokiness and the sweet flavor plays really well with the Roquefort. So, but yeah, French onion soup is one of those things is like, you just got to let it go and let it go and let it go and let it go. One of the first times I learned how to make it, the person used Calvados, which is like an apple brandy. I know that we have a ton of listeners / viewers that don't drink. And so I have a way around that. If you don't drink or don't use alcohol for cooking, but you can use a little apple cider, use the same flavor.
Oh, nice.
The sweetness and the apple flavor. And maybe like a little splash of Worcestershire and maybe like a little splash of white vinegar is going to get you like kind of those brandy, like the tang, the sweetness, the apple. But yeah, I like to do the same thing. Just let it rip. And you always need a crap load more of onions than you think you will, because it cooks down to nothing. Even if you're only making soup for like spinach. 2 people, you need like a dozen onions, like good sized onions.
Especially if you want it to like be hearty,
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want it to be like a few onions floating in broth because that's a waste of your time.
The one thing I'm always afraid of is, have you ever gone somewhere or you've heard like Gordon Ramsay talk about it, and he'll see someone's French onion soup. He's like, "This looks like dirty dishwater."
Yeah,
I'm always afraid of that. I don't think I've done a French onion soup on my YouTube channel, but that's the one thing I'd be afraid of. So I'd have to like make it real rich, real.
It would be so good, like in a sourdough bowl, man.
I could see that. Totally.
Oh, that sounds so good.
You know what I would probably do though is I would probably get like a real awesome heirloom tomato, a little salt, and then with your blue cheese, I feel like that would just be really good. And then that's just what I think.
Hear me out. Roasted, halfway scooped out, roasted acorn squash for fall. French onion soup, crostini, blue cheese. Flambe whiskey?
If you
just saying,
I'm nodding in approval.
I'm coming over there. I'll be there in 17 hours. I think that's what it takes to drive there.
I mean, you can fly, and it'd probably be about the same time with your layovers and.
Oh my god, yes!
Flying is like the worst right now.
Southwest route ever.
Tell me about it,
Steven. You ever pickled green onions?
I haven't. Have you?
I want to know, but I want to try.
Now I want to try it too. This is what happens when you pick. Well, so let me ask you this: when you pickle it, do you heat up your liquids first and then throw everything together, or do you just throw it all together and pray for the best?
That's a great question. So yes, both. It just depends on what it is. Sometimes I'll boil whatever it is and pour it over what's going to be pickled, and sometimes it's like a legit refrigerator pickle. I think it depends on whether I put sugar in there. If sugar and salt, if I don't have anything to dissolve, then I don't bother boiling it.
I like to boil it because I feel like it'll break down the onion just a little bit quicker.
Okay, so you put it in there.
Yeah, like I'll boil. Usually, I'll boil off my liquids. From time to time, if I just don't have the kind of, if I don't have that kind of time, I won't. It'll just sit in the fridge. But I do like to boil my vinegars and stuff like that.
Sometimes I'll shortcut it. Like I really like a balsamic vinegar and rosemary pickled pearl onions. But A, you could not pay me enough money to peel pearl onions, and B, they're kind of pricey when you get them fresh. So the shortcut is I buy the frozen ones and let them thaw out at room temperature, and then I use them to pickle. They're already peeled.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that. That's a good way to do it.
They make like a really good throw these on a charcuterie board type deal.
Yeah. Whenever you make eggs, in the morning, do you ever use like an onion round to like keep your egg together? Have you ever? I mean, I've seen that trick a bunch of times, but I've never done it. Have you?
Oh no, I haven't done it. Like as a
Like an onion ring?
ring,
Yeah.
and you like use it kind of like a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
No, but I've seen that too. And then the other thing I've seen is people will patty their burger out into the onion ring.
I'd have to have I feel like I'd have to have a really big onion ring for that, you know?
Yeah. Well, maybe a slider or something.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that would be pretty good.
There's some big onions out there though.
Oh yeah.
So probably not big enough though. Not enough for like an 8-ounce burger patty though.
Right?
Well, let me ask you this. So you like onion in your meatloaf. When you're pattying burgers, do you ever put mix-ins in there, or are you just a straight meat guy?
I used to do that from time to time, but I always forget to do that, you know? So
yeah,
I just throw it on top.
You want raw onion on your burger or grilled?
I love both. I could do either or, really.
Yeah.
I used to do just only like sauteed onions and grilled onions, but even like a raw onion from time to time, it's not bad.
Yeah, I think if it's sweet enough, it's really good. It just depends. I've been in this phase of life for maybe the last 2 or 3 years where I started eating my burgers without any of the vegetables on them because I think that I just get annoyed when you take a bite and everything comes off the burger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And maybe my teeth are old and they don't work that well. But it really pisses me off when you take a big bite into a burger and you pull the entire onion off. Like I'm like, oh my god, what a waste of time.
Right?
Oh my goodness.
Let me see.
Like now it's a mess.
So this weekend I'll be at in Philadelphia to watch my Eagles play, hopefully win. But and I've talked about it before.
Is that the Cowboys?
No, it'll be Eagles and Browns.
Pittsburgh. Okay.
But there's a place in the Reading terminal that has chocolate-covered onions because the story goes that it was, I guess it was like some sort of, like, I guess, race or something along those lines. And it was, I can't remember what exactly it was, but one of the grand prizes was a gag gift, like a chocolate-covered onion. And people went around the city. It became a thing, and they have them.
Are you going to try
all the time? No,
you're going to try it. No,
you know what? So my dad's supposed to come out. Yeah, they sell them. They sell them ready to go.
That's crazy.
And I don't even think that the outer layer is peeled off. It's just like that nasty outer layer, and it's all
Ew.
My dad is supposed to go and meet us up there, and so I'm going to take him to go check that out. If he's adventurous enough to take a bite out of one, I will taste it with him.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you have to report back.
Now, I'm not saying I'm going to do it yet, but if I can convince him to do it, or maybe I'll just do it and be like, come on, don't be a wimp. Let's go, try it. So, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
People in their scavenger hunts, man, like, it was either a scavenger hunt or a race. I don't remember what it was, but that was like the grand prize, which was, like I said, a total gag.
It's a terrible price. Oh my god.
The worst part is that it has like sprinkles and stuff like that too.
Oh my gosh. So essentially it looks like a chocolate dip apple or like a candy apple.
Something like that.
There's like stuff on it.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy.
I'm trying to see if I can find it in a picture because I know I've taken pictures of it in the past. But yeah, I'm just in that mode of like, I know I got a picture of it somewhere, and I'll have to send that one to you.
Ugh. That's so gross.
It kind of is, but at the same time,
I don't know.
Man, that's interesting.
I've eaten a lot of gross and or strange things in my life or weird stuff, but that one kind of just takes the cake because I adore caramel apples, candy apples, chocolate dip apples, or fruit, right? Like you can go to the Godiva store and they have like the pineapple wedge that's dipped in their dark chocolate or whatever, dried orange slices or whatever it is, right? I like chocolate a lot. It makes a lot of things better, but I don't think it could save an onion.
You never know. Let me see. Okay, I think I'm actually getting close to it.
Could be surprised.
Okay, hold on. Those were delicious donuts. We have... here it is. Yeah. I don't know if you can see that or not.
It's not even peeled.
Yep.
What's happening? Good Lord. That's crazy.
Like I said, if maybe I'll just go pretend to be crazy and get one and tell my dad, you got to try it. Come on, let's go.
For those of you that are listening and not watching on YouTube, the picture has like the sprout on the top.
it's a chocolate covered onion.
It's straight up.
That is not something that I would go out of my way to try, but when in Philly,
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Steven, is there anything that you think onion doesn't go in?
Chocolate.
Besides, I set myself up for that one.
Right. As far as a savory dish, I think it can go with just about anything, you know. Even like in a queso, stuff like that, I think it would be great. It's hard to find something that an onion would not go good with, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
dessert,
my opinion.
I guess.
Yeah, but even then, I would imagine you could do like some sort of onion marmalade or something like that, and you could tie it in.
You could brown sugar onion jam.
Yeah,
dude, that's what I want. I want. I sent Steven a couple weeks ago. I sent him a video that I found online. Somebody had made a partially focaccia, partially masa type deal. Okay, it was like masa and focaccia. It's like focaccia that tasted like a tortilla. Macaccia. I bless you. I want cornbread focaccia with goat cheese and brown sugar onion jam. That's what I want. Oh my gosh. That's what I want.
Cornbread focaccia.
I'm gonna make it right now. I think I have yeast in the fridge. I'm gonna go do that. That's what I want. Yeah.
That sounds good.
I'm not putting onions in a cake anytime soon, though. Or cookies. I don't know.
No. But
I know Maui onions are really sweet, but I just can't imagine.
But I have made bread pudding with the sweet onion rolls. Oh, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty fantastic. I love any variety of onion flavored things. Like I'm a huge fan of onion soup mix, but being used for anything but onion soup. So
you wouldn't make a dip out of it? Throw it like sour cream and stuff like that?
Yeah. Anything but soup. Like it makes everything else better.
Gotcha. I misunderstood.
Just not its original intended use, which is add hot water, make soup. That's a terrible idea.
I would probably add
so
soup.
That
needs like that extra little bit of umami-ness.
Yeah, a little oof. Like it'd be good like in a beef vegetable soup.
I could see that, yeah. Totally.
Well, you were talking about broth. I think one of the things that home cooks maybe don't know is like a really easy way to get depth into your homemade broth or stock is char some onions.
Mm-hmm.
Really simple way. You can puree and then strain it out. It just kind of gives it that body and the color. The other thing is like, for broth, I think that better than bouillon paste actually tastes really good if you just don't have the time to do it yourself.
Yeah,
so
I agree
because it's very similar to what we use in the business, which we would call base, and it's a paste. There's no shame in using those things. Like everybody doesn't have hours and hours of time.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And even if you look at like some of the most classic, simple French techniques, a lot of it calls for onion. I mean, if you look at your broths or your stocks, mirepoix. What's in mirepoix? Onion, celery, carrots.
Any kind of Latin recipes are going to start with your sofrito, your onion, garlic, maybe tomato, maybe cilantro. Indian food, onions and garlic, tomatoes,
Yeah,
it's gonna be there. I think it is so foundational and across so many different cooking styles. So yeah,
I agree 100%.
All that to say, if you're gonna go through the trouble of cutting up an onion, don't beat yourself up for using a bouillon. You know what I mean? Like you did like 75% of the work. It's okay.
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah, I do like the fact that everything that I make has onions and garlic, or just about everything that I make, and it's what I grew up in the restaurant industry using, so
absolutely. I mean, I think you can elevate even the most simple of dishes, right? If I went into my freezer right now and I grabbed some pork chops and I didn't have anything in the house except for onion, I could still make them taste amazing, salt, pepper, heavy caramelized, and then caramelize the crap out of those onions. If my pantry was bare and I have anything else, like an onion is still a great way to make a dish taste great.
Oh yeah,
with a little amount of effort. Spaghetti sauce. I'm always, even if I use a jar of marinara, I'm always adding an onion to it. Always.
Nice.
So onion and garlic. Garlic, another member of the allium family, but I think onion and garlic they're buddies.
Oh yeah,
it's like peanut butter and jelly.
They go hand in hand.
So
they was like onions and garlics.
There's a lot of peas and carrots, Jenny. That's a good question. Would you put a sweet onion on PB&J?
Not there yet, unless it was in a marmalade.
A marmalade, but like onion orange marmalade or like onion jam.
Onion jam. Peanut butter onion jam sandwich.
Ew.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I put peanut butter on a burger before, so you're not that far off.
It's true.
Oh,
it's very true.
I love a good onion roll though for a sandwich.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
We're talking about them. Oh. Okay. Onion rolls for bread pudding, you said.
Mm-hmm.
Was it sweet bread pudding?
It was sweeter because I added white chocolate chips and dried cherries and stuff like that,
So it was meant to be dessert. But what about a savory caramelized onion bread pudding?
I would do that too, yeah.
Phew,
I could see that like as a French onion soup bread pudding type.
Dude, if we could melt Gouda on top? Steven. That sounds so good.
I feel like you would have to have some sort of umami, like some sort of
place
mushroom.
Where you could use tarragon, I think.
You could. Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. What ends up being the umami though? The caramelized onions on their own is not enough. You deglaze them with soy.
I would. I think that would be pretty good.
Like red miso, maybe.
Oh yeah.
That's porcini powder. Would be good there.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds so
I would mince up some porcini because finding porcini powder for me is a little bit harder than anything else. But yeah, you could do that.
The Amazons.
Oh, that's true.
Only if you want 2 pounds and you want it to cost more than your dog. It's like,
right.
Then you're stuck with like how much porcini powder can you use? Good Lord.
Yeah. Well, onions are a great way to enhance any dish. So this is our ode to onion episode.
This is our ode to ogres. I mean onions. Dude, Steve, slightly related tangent. Did you know that McCormick makes umami seasoning that is mushroom, onion, and garlic, and it is phenomenal and extremely affordable?
I'm gonna have to look it up now.
Dude, my brother doesn't even eat onions, garlic, not in its raw chopped up form. He likes like granulated and garlic powder and garlic salt. But yeah, my brother doesn't eat any of those 3 things, but he uses that stuff on steak like it's going on style.
I could see really that. Good. That sounds like it would be delicious.
So good.
Stupid good.
Stupid good. Steven, what are you cooking this week?
Oh yeah, we're making a pasta salad with chicken. Roll my eyes. With red onion.
Are you meal prepping?
I should, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how motivated I am.
Yeah. I don't know. We get past Wednesday in a week and my motivation just takes a nosedive.
True.
So,
yeah.
I'm probably going to seek out some pizza this week. Not sure where because I haven't found the good one yet, but I'm going to find it.
And throw some onions on it.
And throw some onions
as an ode to this episode.
Hella onions on it. As an ode to onions.
And then just go breathe on people.
Steven, we got to go. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. That's a wrap for today. Until the next episode of the Food for Thoughtcast, make good food, eat good food, share it, and be kind to one another.
Thanks so much for listening today. You are part of what makes us special, and we are so glad you joined us. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. Just like food, delicious podcasts are better when you share them with others. Come back for seconds wherever podcasts are served, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Food for Thoughtcast.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at the Food for Thoughtcast or at www.foodforthoughtcast.com, where you can link to all podcast players, or you can send us an email at foodforthoughtcmc@gmail.com.